What it do, YouTube? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to review the fourth album by Miley Cyrus, and basically this project came out in the fall of 2013, and it's called Bangers. So after trying to get an image for herself, an adult contemporary image with Can't Be Tamed from 2010, which I reviewed last month, that the concept about it kind of is Miley Cyrus really found her image in 2013 and dominated basically the second half of 2013 forward with the singles from this album. And the thing about it was Miley Cyrus was really starting to hone into her image, and she had tried to shed her teenage pop kind of personality with Can't Be Tamed, taking like an electronica and electro pop kind of direction with that album. But this time around, she teamed up with upcoming hip hop producer Mike Will Made It, Pharrell Williams, and some of these type folks. It's definitely a very hip hop oriented album, and Miley Cyrus said that she described this album as like a dirty South hip hop kind of album, which this is kind of like a themed project. I like the concept behind it because I did like Can't Be Tamed, which was kind of an electronic and kind of electro pop dance kind of album. And then like Plastic Hearts from 2020 was kind of like a glam rock 80s rock kind of album and stuff. But this one's kind of the hip hop oriented one. And this probably stands, in my opinion, as one of Miley Cyrus's best albums. This had a lot of hit potential on here, and I wound up liking three-fourths of this album. That's 12 out of 16 songs. I'm reviewing the deluxe edition, but Miley Cyrus's rollout for this album was just pretty stellar. She was in the press and like the gossip tabloids and that type of stuff throughout 2013, and she was one of the central figures in terms of contemporary music in 2013. So if you like music, contemporary music from 2013, chances are you were paying attention to something that Miley Cyrus did. So that's kind of the concept about how that kind of went. And this was just overall, like, I do have to say that the stellarness of this project really exudes things. I kind of feel like, in terms of getting like some nice dance bops in here, when this album name is called Bangers, it does live up to that name in a lot of ways. I mean, the promotion of this album is a little bit larger than Can't Be Tamed, but it's still relatively odd just because, for the most part, the best records on this album in some cases aren't even the singles. I mean, Miley Cyrus did a good job of promoting this project and getting it exploited and that type stuff, but there really isn't like a favorable kind of heavy dance club jam like there was on Can't Be Tamed. So even though Miley Cyrus kind of established her image further and became like a central pop figure this time around, the singles this time just have a different context where they're just more makeshift and kind of overall adult contemporary more so than just dance club bops like Can't Be Tamed was. So you'll notice that as we start to talk about these, but I'm going to go ahead and talk about the singles. So basically, the first single is We Can't Stop, and this is kind of an evening, getting litty kind of tune. It's definitely a nice early jam, and I kind of feel like, as far as that kind of goes, where I would play this song, it has like a kind of light piano lick kind of tune in here. It's just a very kind of peaceful and benevolent kind of party tune. It's just interesting to kind of get like a party jam, especially in the lyrics where they talk about being recreational users and stuff, as far as just how lackadaisical the production kind of is. It's just the stuff that usually is on these kind of lyrics and hooks and songs and that type of stuff is just a lot more crunchy and synth induced. I definitely would have liked a song like this off of Can't Be Tamed, but I would have to say I like the title track Can't Be Tamed more than the first single We Can't Stop off of Bangers, but it is still a good song. I feel like We Can't Stop is a nice one. It's just kind of a tune that you would play at like 7:15, 7:30 p.m. It's just an entry kind of house party jam and that type of stuff. Is something I probably wouldn't play this song anywhere past 9:30 p.m. But it does have some entry kind of getting started kind of bops as far as like as things start to get turned up and stuff. 7:30, 7:45, something like that. So the second single is Wrecking Ball, and this one's kind of a makeshift bickering song. This is definitely kind of throughout relationships in this song, and it's kind of a straightforward and blue collar kind of song. This one just is like a power ballad, a makeshift power ballad, pop power ballad, and that type of stuff. Has a really strong chorus. You probably remember the music video if you've seen it. Miley Cyrus swinging through on a wrecking ball in her underwear and that type of stuff. It's an interesting one. It's probably one of the central moments of 2013, and it just overall worked. It's a strong song. It hit #1, but it is kind of, it's more makeshift than Blue Collar. This is one that you can listen to in the car on the way home from work. Just kind of that malaise, and just kind of, it's interesting to get Miley Cyrus doing some of these because she didn't do songs like this on Can't Be Tamed. I don't know if she did it on albums prior to that, but it just works as like a stellar kind of, mid 2010s makeshift kind of R&B pop kind of song in that sort of sense. It's just a powerful one, just not quite a party jam, but just something for like Blue Collar and stuff. And then the third single was Adore You. This one's another power ballad kind of stuff, but this one's more R&B related. So Miley Cyrus gives off two ballads on here, but both of these are not like the typical, like this album is called Bangers, but this is kind of more stuff for like makeshift, at least in the singles. Now, the thing about Adore You is it's a really kind of strong emotions kind of song. Like this is overbearing. This sounds like marriage kind of overbearing type stuff. Miley Cyrus is really being affectionate on this song, so it's really kind of like a power R&B ballad. I don't know how well this would pick up on like Blue Collar makeshift kind of stuff. I definitely can see Wrecking Ball being that way, but this one's really kind of a lovey kind of song, so it's a little bit more over the top than what was probably seemed that could have happened. But it is a pretty strong third single, and I do like Miley Cyrus has some really great melodies on here. It's just a great R&B too, and I would have to say if the overbearingness is not like over the top for you, I do have to say this is a pretty strong R&B like Miley Cyrus, which not every song is R&B. This is one of the few songs. If you're looking for more songs like Adore You, there's really not that many, but I would have to say this is actually a gem. So that's kind of the thing. So out of 16 songs on this album, I wound up recommending to you 12. So we'll talk about these, and I'll go ahead and recommend them. So the 12 songs would be We Can't Stop, Wrecking Ball, Adore You, Love Money Party, FU, SMS, Bangers with Britney Spears, Do My Thing, On My Own, Rooting for My Baby, Someone Else, Drive, and Hands in the Air. So a couple more party gems if you're looking for a little bit more crunchy feeling than We Can't Stop. I would have to say Love Money Party is probably the sleaziest song on this album. It has a real kind of sleazy, low-key kind of feeling towards it. Just kind of a house party, house shindig kind of bop on there. Big Sean really does a nice job on here. They just have some just simple, lackadaisical entry kind of sleazy house kind of party type bops. This is good to get that. This one's not so much a club bop, but just kind of like just smoking a couple joints at a house party type thing, that sort of stuff. Jackass is playing some of those type moments. I feel like FU with French Montana is a nice stormy and kind of angry karaoke like song. This one just has a lot of venting in there, and it feels very night induced. This is the sort of stuff when it's like girls' night out and you and your girls, for women, are kind of pissed off and PO'd and that type of stuff and just need to vent and that sort of thing. This is definitely pretty solid venting song. French Montana, it's interesting to kind of get him on a song like this. I don't know why Miley Cyrus felt the need to bring French Montana along for the ride for that. But it was just interesting enough to kind of get the two of them kind of doing like a stormy kind of venting kind of song and stuff. Another kind of party jam on here that's a little bit more upbeat and has a little bit more crunchy energy than Love Money Party would be SMS Bangers. Britney Spears is an interesting pick for this just because she hasn't really been messed with in recent times much past, especially past the 2000s. People said that Britney Spears kind of burnt out after the 2000s after she shaved her head and stuff. But this is an example of like Britney Spears kind of getting some of her swagger back. And she was pretty melodic on this song. It's just a pretty thumping kind of entry, kind of flashy dance club jam. Definitely a thumper. And this nice dance bop overall is a good one. I feel like Do My Thing is a ritzy kind of glitz. This one samples Blondie, I think. I think that's kind of the concept of, it's just a ritzy kind of bop on here. It's a dance EDM kind of cut. And this one has one of the most powerful choruses on here. It's an overall strong kind of gem. This is probably one of the best songs on the album. I feel like Adore You, We Can't Stop, Do My Thing, and like probably On My Own are some of the best ones on here. But I do kind of feel like there's just a lot of quality on here. So we'll talk about more of the best songs in a moment. But On My Own, On My Own is kind of similar to the stuff that Charlie Puth does in like the 2010s. He's kind of someone that I haven't talked about that much, but Charlie Puth, this is very much an adult contemporary kind of thumping, bubbler on here. I like Miley Cyrus kind of doing this. This one doesn't have much hip hop orientation, but I do think this is a pretty nice mid tempo dance song. Definitely On My Own is a great one. Rooting for My Baby. This is produced by Pharrell. Rooting for My Baby. This one's produced by Pharrell, and this is a great kind of sullen, kind of piano type beat on there. Nice piano keys. It's a very sullen and kind of day song. Sullen and kind of off day kind of song. This is kind of one where you're just having an off day or a bad day, something like that. Miley Cyrus rooting for her babe and that type of stuff. It's a mid tempo kind of cut, and it has a nice beat. I really like the beat on Rooting for My Baby. This is one of the best ones on here. This is kind of a nice jam for Miley Cyrus, showcasing the fact that she's kind of sticking up for her man and that type of stuff. So I like the concept behind that. Someone Else is kind of like a late night dance EDM cut. So this album does have some light EDM licks in here. I feel like songs like On My Own, or I feel like songs like Someone Else, Drive, and there's like one other song that does it. I can't remember which one. Well, at least songs like Someone Else and Drive are kind of like some EDM type cuts. I feel like Someone Else is just kind of like a sprawling one. Definite late night kind of dance kind of cut on here. It just has that EDM kind of feels very synthy, very kind of hype EDM related, and just kind of feels like something ripped out of 2012 or 2013. Miley Cyrus is an interesting character to put a spin on EDM just because hers are kind of high octane. Like just like Linkin Park took to the water real well with EDM, I feel like Miley Cyrus does a good example of that. Just because they're not really on here in overabundance, but the ones that are on here kind of breathe some new life into it. So these are kind of some jams, and Drive is kind of like that too. This is another kind of, this one's more of a cruise song. This one may not be so much. Drive is not so much of like a dance song, but it's definitely like a cruising in the car if you like to listen to EDM in the car more so than at the dance club. This one's just kind of a starry night kind of tune. Drive is just kind of a starry night kind of tune. This is a pretty pounding EDM cut. Like the synths on here get kind of crazy. This is one that you probably could smoke one and dance a little bit too, but it's, in my opinion, more of like a cruising around kind of song just for like night festivities and stuff. And then Hands in the Air is kind of like an outdoor festivities kind of joint. I feel like this one's kind of a party cut for like outdoors and stuff, very glitzy, and I like the kind of synthy production on there. And this is on the deluxe edition, and it has Ludacris on here. So I would definitely recommend getting the deluxe edition because all three of the bonus songs, Rooting for My Baby, On My Own, and Hands in the Air, are worth it. That's definitely kind of the thing. These are definitely worthwhile to pick up in addition. I would have to say, me liking pretty much, I would say out of the original 13, if you just get the original edition, there are still yeah, I mean that the deluxe edition definitely bolstered this album because I like 9 out of 13 in terms of the regular edition, but I like 12 out of 16 of like the deluxe. That definitely helped. That just kind of happens to be a thing. Talk about some of the songs I didn't enjoy on this project, like 4x4, My Darling, and Get It Right, hashtag Get It Right, are three kind of country R&B infused type tunes that just didn't quite work that well just because of the lackadaisical and just poor productions. They just didn't come off as compelling. Like Miley Cyrus did a great job of picking out some hip hop oriented beats, but when it tried to switch the gears and be more country oriented, it just didn't quite pull it off, which is odd because Miley Cyrus is kind of lightly country, or at least has country orientation. So it's surprising that she wasn't able to nail the country tunes on this album when that's kind of where her roots come from and stuff. So it's just kind of odd to get that this time. And then another song I didn't really like was just the kind of, and then the only other song I didn't enjoy was just Maybe You're Right, which was just kind of a soul searching, kind of finding yourself kind of song that just had like a kind of jovial, but this kind of more serious kind of, this more, yeah, just more serious-esque, a jovial but kind of more serious-esque kind of piano beat on here that just was not quite as interesting. I did like We Can't Stop's beat better, but this one's kind of a more serious version of We Can't Stop. Just a little bit more kind of got to get it together kind of song, but it just didn't quite pull it off as well. I mean, I suppose that this would be a decent blue collar song that's not a single, because Miley Cyrus did briefly do some blue collar on here, but I don't know. I would almost say that that could be an almost song, but I just don't know how well it would eventually mesh with me. So I just would have to say I think I could say that this could almost be an almost song, but at this point I don't know the affability of the song in terms for me. So that's just kind of the thing. But So in terms of what I'm going to score this album, me liking 12 out of 16, I'm going to give this album a 9.5 out of 10. This really connected with me well. This happened to be an excellent project that had a lot of gems on here, a lot of great moments. So, Miley Cyrus came through and she named this album Bangers. It definitely had the hits. And even if the singles were not represented of like the true dance cuts and kind of gems on here versus for social moments and that type of stuff, I do kind of feel like there's plenty of stuff to do. You do have the blue collar moments for work. You do have like the kind of social moments. You do have a couple bops on here that are EDM related for crazier nights, and you do have some hip hop joints on here for that type of stuff. So it's just kind of interesting the way that Miley Cyrus kind of put some of these rappers on songs. Like I really feel like French Montana being on kind of like a karaoke venting song was an interesting choice. And Big Sean kind of being on the sleazy house party kind of cut was not the typical song he'd be on. Future was kind of an odd pairing for My Darlin', which was kind of like a country R&B type tune. I mean, Future did a good job on the chorus, but that one just didn't work that well. And it's the same thing with Nelly, trying to get Nelly on some of his country grammar type vibes. But it's just, the rappers on here did some great jobs with the stuff that they did, but it sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But I did like the concept of what Miley Cyrus tried to do. So that's just kind of the concept about it. But there are like plenty of it. This is a versatile album, and I would have to say that there's a lot of bops on here, a lot of good moments for dance, EDM, kind of ritzy dance and house party kind of cuts and blue collar even. So there's just a lot of stuff to go around and that type of stuff. So the social score, I'm going to go ahead and give the social score a 10 out of 10 because it just had so many good jams on here that just hit the nail on the head. Definitely would have to say that it worked effectively. So Miley Cyrus accomplished what she needed to. Yeah, this is just a very festive album for you and your friends. It just has plenty of good joints to kind of step out to and have some great times. Like I would definitely say We Can't Stop, FU, SMS, Do My Thing, On My Own, Someone Else, Drive, Hands in the Air with Ludacris. Some of these are just very festive and just have great beats on there that just control the night. And it was easy to be seen why Miley Cyrus did a good job in 2013. So this is kind of the thing. Definite plus on this project. So in terms of the future, like Miley Cyrus dropped an album back in March of 2023. It seems like she hit #1 recently, but I don't know how the rest of the singles are doing. But at least the promotional cycle did decent for her Endless Summer Vacation project. I'm going to get to a few more Miley Cyrus projects, but I did like especially what I found on this record. So